Good evening, positive people. Buenos noches, bonjour, bon dia, ni hao, memenjes, dobre utro, namaste, sawadi, chawim, manga nangu manga, como ye, sopa wanang sung, assalamu alaikum, privet, guten tag, calamara, and as they say in some neighborhoods, what's good? My name is Kevin Booker Jr.
And I'm Daisy Torres.
And welcome to the Cultural Flip Side. Now, Daisy, what's going on this week?
Oh my God, I'm so excited. It's Teacher Appreciation Week. Woohoo! To all our teachers. We love and honor you, and this show is dedicated to you. But first, I do want to say, buenas tardes, bienvenido mi gente.
Right.
Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros hoy. Este es un día muy especial. Ay, estoy bien contenta. I'm so excited to be here. I just wanted to shout out my people. I am like, you're gonna see me today, super excited.
Absolutely.
As we are honoring our teachers today, and we have special guests. We're gonna get into that in a moment.
Absolutely. You know what, Daisy? I love being a teacher.
Do you?
Absolutely. I love just being an educator, being able, it's something that some days I feel like I'm like, I get paid to do this? Because I would do it for free.
I know. How did you become an educator?
I became an educator when I started out as a long-term sub when I was in Hartford.
Oh, where I'm at right now.
I know,
Nice.
yeah. And then
Nice.
I loved it so much. I love being in the classroom. I love the rapport with the students.
Yeah.
And that's what actually I just never could quit.
I know.
Now, how did you become an educator?
Well, it's interesting. I actually didn't even think I was going to be an educator. I was actually looking at school social work or maybe a nurse. I know I wanted to help people.
Right.
But then I got into education because I don't know if you ever heard of the program called AmeriCorps.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
love that
national
program.
service program, and I was able to give back to my community, but they placed me as part of job readiness skills in a school. And I became an early literacy facilitator, and I
Awesome.
tell you, I absolutely loved it.
Wow.
I changed my whole major, and I said, I'm going into education. Rest is history. I've been in education now for close to 20 years.
20 years as well.
Oh, look at that!
I know. Yeah.
That's awesome, right? There's nothing better than impacting the life of a child, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, I just feel totally blessed.
Yes. You know, it's interesting too, like when you go into education, sometimes you say to yourself, I'm going in to help. But you end up being helped.
Absolutely.
And every day it's like I look forward to it because I love giving back and helping out. But the reality is I'm learning more about myself in the process.
Really?
Yeah, being an educator.
Yeah, you know, and I love what you just said, that you learn from the students. I mean, I love those aha moments
Those
that
aha
students
moments.
have when the light bulb goes off and they get it and you help them get there. I
And
mean,
you can see it in their eyes.
Absolutely. That's like priceless. Like no money can buy that.
No.
I'm sorry. Like those moments, that's what keeps me grounded and centered. I love it. I love what I do, and it's just truly
So
amazing.
who is your favorite teacher in school?
So, I grew up in Meriden Public Schools, and I went to Maloney High School, graduate, right? Woohoo, Maloney. But what I remember, one teacher, she was my algebra teacher. Her name was Miss Jeremy. And the reason why she was so important is because she made learning fun, right? She let us work with groups. She connected math to the real world. Like I actually liked learning. I could see like the skills,
Yeah.
for, you know, when I became an adult. But I miss her dearly. I know she retired, and I haven't kept in touch, but I would love to reconnect with her. I want her to know that she had an impact on my life.
That was beautiful.
How about you?
I would say there were two teachers in particular. Mrs. Conover, who was my 5th grade teacher.
Oh,
I know.
elementary.
When I was a little boy, I was like 10 years old. And she taught me the importance of getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Oh,
So when you're in situations, you know, continue pushing yourself.
absolutely.
Challenge yourself to continue learning. And I remember that year, she would always expose us to new things.
Sweet.
Learning about just different reading material and learning about different languages. And that's something that I kept with me. And another person was Dr. Roy Lawrence. I'll never forget him. He was my math teacher.
Another math teacher.
I know, another one. And
Awesome.
he taught me the importance of making sure you ask for help.
So important.
So important. Whenever you need something, ask for help.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's really crucial.
And I remember being in the 10th grade and having him as my math teacher and feeling frustrated at times. But he would always say, you got this. Come after school. I know you got this. And he was like, always remember to always ask for help, Kevin. Whenever things get tough, always ask for help, because maybe you may not know it now, but if you continue to practice, you will sooner or later you will get it.
I think that why that worked for you too is because he must have built relationships with you. The
Right.
importance of building relationships, right? He knew, right?
Yeah.
The importance of that. That's amazing.
So, you know, when I think about education a lot, is why do you think there's such a shortage right now and teaching?
That is a great question, and it continues to be an issue even at the state level, right?
Right.
We have pockets of students going into education, but we don't have enough students of color entering the field. And we know that research tells us it's really important that students get to see themselves reflected in the curriculum, reflected in the teaching profession. And we need to build some incentives, I think, to get students in there. For me, for example, one thing that was really great is I got a minority teacher incentive grant.
Right.
So it gave me $5,000 toward my tuition. I mean, things like that, like really thinking outside the box, I think will help. Try to get students in that direction.
You know, when I think about like teacher shortage as well, I think it needs to start when the students are in high school. So you know how like we have all these different academies,
right?
And then some districts are doing it now, but I think it needs to be something that we see nationally, right? Where you have a teacher academy, and so students who are interested in becoming teachers, they can actually, you know, really focus on what it takes to be a teacher at that level. And then when they get to college, I think what will be really extraordinary is like if you have the alumni who graduated from those particular institutions, they actually mentor those students who have declared their major in education, and then they can also mentor them along the way when they graduate.
What a great
Imagine
idea.
that if they offer them, the alumni, a little stipend as well. I don't, you know, budgets are tight.
Absolutely.
But it'll encourage the alumni as well to come back, mentor those individuals, and help them get through.
Absolutely.
And then I'm thinking about when districts will come to my mind as well, is imagine creating a line item, right? So some districts are already doing this, and they're creating cohorts that follow through for those paraprofessionals who may have the financial resources at this point to go back to school and get certified.
Correct.
Those long-term subs. I remember when I was a sub as well, you know, I'm struggling, trying to figure out how to pay bills, and I have all these extra bills, and I don't know how I can afford to get my certification. You know, and you're thinking about how do I get through? Right. But if those different districts offer those opportunities to provide those resources for some of those individuals who are at that point in their career, then people can actually be able to like navigate through those times in their life, and then they'll create maybe a cohort, and then they can get certified within a year or two, and that would be in-house.
I love that idea, and I think that what you're speaking to is like grow your own.
Correct.
Yes, your grow your own programs are super important, right? You have the talent a lot of times right in the district. It's like build from that, build your capacity. I think that is crucial. And I think the state in Connecticut is working on, you know, really supporting thinking outside the box. Like right now I hire a lot of teachers in my district under the durational shortage area permit. It's also called DSAP. And it allows teachers to, you know, work on their certification requirements while, you know, they're working as a teacher. So I think it's great. Yeah, it's awesome.
Absolutely.
So I love that.
That's
a great
awesome.
idea. Oh, I'm just so excited.
That's why I love education. And I'm so excited about today's show.
Oh my God, you're right.
I mean, this is what it's all about. This is why, you know, as educators, we have dedicated our lives to uplifting our community and to the children.
Absolutely.
So Daisy, please, for the world out there, introduce who our today's guest is.
Okay, I don't even know what to do with myself. I am that excited, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just feel like I couldn't even sleep last night. That's how excited I was, right?
Same here.
So for the world, right, we are excited to share with you that we have the United States Education Secretary with us today, Dr. Miguel Cardona, right? And why I'm so excited about bringing him on the show is because I know Miguel personally. I grew up with him. And
oh my gosh, awesome.
Yes, it's amazing. Like our families grew up together. I went to high school with his, well, I actually went to elementary school with his sister. He graduated high school with my sister.
Wow.
Our families, and we were born and raised in the same city, Meriden, Connecticut. We've been colleagues, we've been friends. He's been a mentor to me. I'm just super, I feel like his groupie. Seriously, I feel like a groupie. I mean, I'm following him around on social media. It's just because I am so proud of him. And so I want to share with you all, for those of you who don't know Dr. Miguel Cardona like I do, I just want to tell you just a little bit about him, right? So, as I mentioned, he grew up in Meriden, Connecticut, right? He's a native there. And he was an educator. He was a teacher, a fourth grade teacher. And then after he was teaching for a few years, he became the youngest Connecticut school principal in the state.
Well, you have to say that one more time,
Yeah,
please.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like crazy. He was the youngest principal in the state of Connecticut at age 27.
Wow.
Right? And amazing, right?
Amazing.
And he went on, right? He became assistant superintendent in our district. He then became our first ever Latino commissioner of education in the state of Connecticut. Amazing, right? And if that wasn't, big enough, he was also doing stuff outside of work. He was actually the vice president for the Connecticut Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents.
Wow.
We call that GALAS, right? I've worked very closely with him on legislation and just work in education. And then our proudest moment was when he became our United States Education Secretary. I am just super proud of him, and I am so excited that he has decided to take time out of his day to bring him on our show. So let's welcome him on.
Absolutely.
Woo! Hola, Miguel, ¿cómo estás?
How are you? Good.
How are you? It's so wonderful to have you on the show. Welcome.
Glad to be with you on the show.
Oh, well, I just finished introducing. I must have said, you didn't probably hear it, but I must have said a book about just how much you have contributed to our education field. And just, I explained how much, how way back you and I go, right?
Yeah.
From kids. So I'm just super excited. Welcome to the Cultural Flip Side. And I want to introduce my co-host, Kevin Booker Jr.
Dr. Miguel Cardona, it's a pleasure to meet you. It is such a pleasure.
Nice to meet you too.
Well, we want to thank you so much again for being here. And again, congratulations again for being our education secretary. That is like huge. Here I am like beaming like a little sister, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how I feel. So, I told a little bit about your background and our upbringing and how we know each other. But for the viewers out there, Miguel, can you tell the viewers just a little bit about who is Dr. Miguel Cardona?
Well, as you know, I'm a second generation Puerto Rican. I was born in Meriden. My parents came from Puerto Rico, and I grew up in Meriden. I went to school in Meriden. I went to school in Connecticut, college in Connecticut. I'm just, a product of the public school system, and like so many other students across the country, so many of the opportunities that I had were because of the experience that I had in public schools and, non-traditional, right? I didn't attend schools in a very affluent community. I went to a technical high school where I learned automotive shop for 4 years. I was the first in my family, like so many of our colleagues who went to college, and I try to navigate that space. But I'm the same person that was a teacher. I'm the same. I'm a part of a community, and the community helped raise me. So it's my job to give back to the community.
That's right.
That's how I was raised. I'm a son of two hardworking parents. My best teachers. I have an older brother, a younger sister. We all went into the field of service. I'm the husband of Marissa, who also works in education. She's a family school liaison and gives back to the community in the ways she can. And I'm the proud father of a junior and a freshman in high school who are navigating that space and getting ready for the next chapter of life for themselves. So at the end of the day, I'm like everyone else. There's nothing special about me. It's just I'm serving in a role of Secretary of Education, and I'm humbled and honored to do that.
Well, I will have to say that, you are very special, right? So I will say that.
Yes.
But you know, I know you in a different level, right? As I mentioned earlier in the clip, you've been a mentor, a friend. We grew up together, right? What is something that most people don't know about you? Right? Like I know that a lot of people don't know about your musical talents.
Uh-oh.
So I mean, like you feel free to add, but I want people to get to
Musical
know,
talents.
you know, the Miguel that I know.
Listen, I didn't get this job because I want to grow up to be Mark Anthony. I got this job because I care about kids, you know?
That's right.
And yeah, you know, music growing up. I mean, if you look at my playlist, and I often reference music when I give speeches, you know, like I remember meeting KRS-One and hearing about You Must Learn and learning about Benjamin Banneker through rap music. And I thought to myself, should I be learning about Black leaders through rap music? Shouldn't that be the role of our school system? But I also grew up, you know, listening to Felipe Rodriguez, Trio Los Condes, music that came from the island and really talked about the values and the traditions of our beautiful culture. And I've always carried that with me. So, you know, my playlist could be as varied from old 1940s Puerto Rican music to lately DMX has been, you know, and his words
I love it.
serve as inspiration, motivation to salsa. I'm a big fan of salsa and Latin pop. And, you know, so music is a big part of my experience. This morning when I got here into the office, I was playing Pandora and I had Los Condes on because I needed that connection to home. I needed that the music that I grew up listening to be my motivation in the morning. And oftentimes before I get onto a big speech or something like that, I have my inspiration playlist and I have you know, either really songs that really impact me emotionally or really hardcore rap that just gets me pumped up for the occasion. And yeah,
I love that. I love that.
Dr. Cardona, you get me like really excited right now. I mean, you bringing back memories. KRS-One, You Must Learn. I mean, DMX. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
I love it. You know, one thing that comes to my mind right away is people may not know, and you alluded to it earlier about graduating from a technical high school and also from Wilcox Tech in Meriden, Connecticut with a focus on automotive. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey in becoming a teacher and later the youngest principal in the state of Connecticut? And why did you choose the education career? And what were the challenges you faced as a young principal?
Right. So, you know, I often make it like comparable to, you know, when you see little ducks following the lead duck, right? I had my eldest cousin, he was maybe 8 years older than me. He went to the technical high school to study plumbing. And all the little cousins, you know, Puerto Rican families, many of us are really tight. So all the cousins hung out together. So we looked up to him. So he went to that school and like little ducks following in order, we all went to that school. And, you know, you would think, oh, you're going to go to college. Why would you go to a technical high school? I'm an example of you could do it all. I went to a technical high school. That was a great decision for me. I studied automotive. I loved it. It was great 4 years. But, you know, about my senior year, I had my art teacher, Ms. Ransom, who said, you know, Miguel, you should consider teaching. I wanted to become an art teacher at first. But I gravitated toward elementary education because those students, I felt like you can have such an impact there. But, you know, at the end of the day, again, those family values of service to the community is what caused me to go into education. My sister's a social worker. My brother serves in law enforcement. And for me, it was an extension of service to the community. So I chose education. And man, it was the best decision I made. I really feel like it's an extension of who I am.
That's awesome. So Dr. Cardona,
going back to, really quick, I realized I didn't answer some of the other parts. So young principal, listen, I was working with folks that were teaching longer than I've been alive.
Wow.
So you have to go into this with humility and understanding that you learn through the process by others, through their lived experiences too. But you have to be very clear about what your goals are. It's not about Miguel Cardona. This is about the goals that we have, the vision that we have to help children. So that should drive the work, not the person, whether they're old, young. It's about the work, right? So I'm Secretary of Education to get the work done. So the same values that I learned then are the ones that are here. It's not about me in the position. It's about the work of reopening our schools, recovering, and making education better than when it was before the pandemic.
That's right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for clarifying that as well. Dr. Miguel Cardona, what are your hopes for reimagining education and your role as Secretary of Education?
Yes. So I'll share with you that prior to the pandemic, we had achievement gaps and opportunity gaps across the country that we've almost normalized. You know, I talked to Dr. Noguera now, and I share with him how I use that term that he coined, normalization of failure. We've almost normalized the fact that Black and brown students are 20, 30 points below. And I want to make sure that we have a sense of urgency around addressing that. This is the closest we've ever come to having a reset button in education. So we have to make sure that when we reopen schools, we're doing it with a better expectation than what it was before the pandemic. That's a low bar if we say we want to get it back to what it was before. We really have to make sure that we're setting up systems that are helping students with disabilities better, that are addressing multilingual learners better than we did before, that are making sure that all students feel welcome and engaged in schools, that we're honoring the profession by providing better professional learning opportunities for our educators, because they're dealing with so much more. We have to make sure we're receiving students in a trauma-informed system, because our students are still in the middle of a pandemic. We can't think that just because you have a face mask and the lights are on, that school can get back to normal. We have to make sure we do better. Our kids deserve it. That's why the president said, build back better. That's what we have to do.
That's right.
I couldn't agree more with you, Miguel. That is so true. And, you know, we know that this is Teacher Appreciation Week, right? Teacher appreciation is so important around this time, particularly with the pandemic and all that's happening, right? It's been so challenging, as you know, for all of our educators. And so with teacher appreciation, what message do you have for the educators who may be listening?
You know, first and foremost, just thank you. Like the pride, the genuine pride I feel, Daisy, with the profession, how these educators across the country they rose up for these kids. They provided meals when meals were needed. They provided after hours when they needed that. They provided that stability that our students needed when everything else was unstable. So just the level of gratitude that I feel so honored to be a part of this profession, where we put our students at the center of the conversations and we make sure that we're making decisions for them. The leaders, and you know this, the leaders that are willing to, you know, sacrifice comfort and willing to sacrifice their reputation to do what's right and help get students in school safely, even if that means taking a hit or two by people that don't agree with them. This was a very tough year to lead. And this was a very, very difficult year as a teacher to serve, because everything got turned upside down. And I'm not just talking about technology. I'm talking about, you know, how there was so much uncertainty around, first of all, before when we first, you know, last year, you know, we were learning the science. We were trying to figure it out as we were serving children. So these teachers have done so much for our students. So it's really, I want to say thank you, number one. But number two, I want to make sure that we, in Teacher Appreciation Week, right, that it doesn't just end after a week of treats in the staff lounge, which they should have, ice cream Sundays, which they should have. They deserve all that.
Right.
But let's honor the profession. Let's make sure that they have a livable wage. You know, in 30 states out of 50, a mid-career teacher with a family of 4 qualifies for federal assistance. That's unacceptable.
Oh my gosh.
Let's pay our teachers well. Let's provide them professional learning.
Absolutely.
Let's give them the supports that they need to do their job. That's how you show appreciation for teachers. So yes, the cupcakes are nice, the smiles. Let's pamper our teachers, but let's also remember teacher appreciation goes further than that week. Let's honor the profession by lifting it the way it deserves to be lifted.
Absolutely.
That is so incredibly important, what you just said. So thank you for you know, really honoring our teachers with that message. And, you know, we have a panel that's coming up pretty soon in our show, and we have Dr. Michael Connor from Middletown Public Schools, right? We do have our 2020 Hartford's Teacher of the Year, Shakira Perez.
Perez.
And we have a parent from New London Public Schools, Faith Satterfield, right? We brought them on, right, to really talk about the pandemic and the challenges. And so you touched upon that. So thank you for that. Is there any message that you may have for them as parents, as teachers, as, you know, district leaders?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just a warm-up app for them. You know,
No way.
we got Mike who set up testing in his district before anybody else did. He gave me a call when I was commissioner. He said, "Listen, we're game. What could we do?" So he worked with community health center to set up testing sites in his district before anybody else did, because he wanted to safely reopen schools. And Shakira Perez, congratulations to you. You know, what a time to be a Teacher of the Year. You know, your messaging, the hard work that you do is something that we should be honoring every year. But
Absolutely.
the fact that you're doing this during the pandemic is critically important. And Faith, you know, listening to parents and having somebody who can talk from the perspective of parents to talk about how to get it right. We have a chance to get it right. Let's get it right. Let's listen to Faith. But to the three of them together, what I'm going to say is, one thing that I learned, not only as Commissioner of Education, but what I'm seeing across the country as I'm getting around with the Help Is Here tour, is intentional collaboration is needed for us to do what's right for kids, not only with the reopening, but to address achievement disparities, to improve college and career readiness access so that all students have a chance to go into the workforce or college. So this intentional collaboration, intentional partnership that parents, superintendents, and teachers need to have, I want us to keep that. We had to do it during the pandemic in ways we never did in the past. Let's not let those slide. Let's keep those going, because we have a lot of tough decisions to make in the future, and we need that collaboration.
That is awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. First of all, I really, I'm going to let Kevin speak in a moment, but I just want to personally thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us on Teacher Appreciation Week, and just the tribute that we want to give all educators for the hard work that they do each and every day with our students and families. But on a personal note, I just want to tell you, hermano, I am so proud of you, and I am your biggest fan.
She
and
really is.
I really am. And everybody knows, like I told them earlier, just so you know, the Calas girls, we are like your, groupies, right?
Yeah.
We are all behind you. We are so proud of the fact that you are leading this country in a way that needs it so desperately. And so thank you again, and I'm going to turn it over to Kevin.
Dr. Miguel Cardona, you are such an inspiration on so many levels, and I really appreciate the time that you have taken out for this show, being on the cultural flip side. And I love your passion about music. So on the cultural flip side, we love music here. And you brought up some names and everything, and it's Teacher Appreciation Week. And one of the artists that come to my mind is Nas right now. When he came out, and I see your head shaking right now.
He knows.
And he had a song called I Can. And the way this works, we play a little game here on Cultural Flip Side. I'll say the lyrics, and then you finish up the lyrics, the last line there. And I'm gonna do I'll do the hook, the chorus part, and then I'll say the rap line, and then you'll add on to it. But I know you got it.
He got this.
You got this. I see the energy in the room.
It's on.
All right, here we go. I know I can be what I wanna be what I wanna be. If I work hard at it, I'll be where I wanna be. I know I can be where I wanna be. If I work hard at it, I'll be where I wanna be. Here we go. Be boys and girls, listen up. You can be anything in the world, and God we trust.
God we trust.
Our architect, doctor, maybe
Or even a lawyer.
there we go. But nothing comes easy. It takes much practice. Yeah. Dr. Miguel Cardona, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you are doing for this nation. I appreciate you. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you here on the cultural flip side. You are an amazing individual.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for everything you are doing.
Totally appreciate that. And listen, let me just close by saying that, I think the fact that we can take inspiration from Nas, we can take inspiration from KRS, there are so many things around us that if we look at as assets, we're on the right track. You know, so Galas, my Galas family, you are family to me. I take inspiration from that group. And in this country, we have an opportunity to turn tragedy into triumph, right?
That's right.
So this was horrible, but we have an opportunity to make it better, to make opportunity. Daisy, you know about that. You took a personal tragedy of losing your dog and you turned it into something positive in I'll see you on the bridge, right? So you know what I'm talking about. As a country now, we have an opportunity to do that, but we're gonna have to do it together. So I'm gonna stay true to who I am. I'm gonna serve. I'm humbled to be serving. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be with you today. And I know that when we put our heads together, I know I can, and I know we can. So
That's
thank you
right.
so much for the time. Enjoy the rest of your show. Take care.
I love it.
Thank
Love you so
you.
much, Dr. Miguel Cardona.
All right, take
Thank you
care.
so
Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was
Oh
amazing.
my God, my heart is full right now. I am just so excited that he came on the show today. You
Wow.
have no idea. That just, his message, right? How inspirational was he?
Powerful.
What did you take
Strong.
away from what he said?
You know, just be true to yourself, be true to your roots, and follow your passion. And as an educator, just continue moving forward.
Yeah.
Through all the trials and tribulations that we have going on in this nation, the most important thing I took from this is that the person at the top understands what exactly is going on in the ground level.
Absolutely.
And it feels good to my heart to know that. It was an honor and a pleasure to have him on the show today.
And I hope that I met my objective like a good teacher does in ensuring that, you know, everyone out there saw Miguel in a different light, right? Got to see the Miguel that I knew growing up. We're so proud of him. And for me, what really stood out is similar to what you mentioned. It's just understanding the needs of our student. He talked
Absolutely.
about multilingual learners, right? And just not normalizing this system of failure, right? That's Dr. Pedro Naguara, you know, and he just brought all that to life. But, you know, at the end of the day, he cares about his kids. And one thing I will say about him, he will put his students in the same system that he's leading, right?
Absolutely.
He believes in community. And so if it's not good enough for his kids, it's not good enough.
Right.
And that's important, right? That's important that you have somebody at the helm who understands our needs. And so, you know, we're blessed that he came on the cultural flip side. That's awesome.
It was a pleasure and honor to
Yes.
have him on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So when I think about education, you know, I just think about what it takes to be an educator. You know, when just listening to Dr. Miguel Cardona, United States Secretary of Education, and just listening to his passion, his love for his community, his love for students, his love for the educators that pour their lives every single day into our children, into their communities, making things better.
Right.
You know, that's an inspiration on so many levels because it takes all of us as a collective to continue moving forward. And when I think about the collective, you know, the coming together as a unified front, I think about our guests today.
I'm excited
That
about
are
this
gonna be on this panel.
Yes.
I think about Dr. Michael Connor, Middletown, Superintendent of Middletown, Connecticut.
That's awesome.
Shakira Perez.
Yes. Woohoo! Hartford's 2020 Teacher of the Year.
And I went to high school with her.
I know.
No.
Oh my God. How could I forget that? Everybody, they went to prom.
Oh my
together.
gosh, you had something.
Oh, come on. I'm dying to see this picture. I'm just saying.
Jeez. And Faith Satterfield.
Oh, yes, Faith. She's amazing. She is amazing.
She's also an artist. She's a social activist.
Yes, that art.
And
Yes.
she's a wonderful, phenomenal parent who also helps out so many other children in New London,
wonderful.
Connecticut as well.
So we had an
We
amazing
are
panel.
amazing.
And perfect to honor our teachers and educators. Right?
This week.
This is great. I love this.
So Ron,
Right.
I know you're there. Can you please bring on this awesome panel?
Yes. Woo.
Whoa.
Look at these beautiful people. Welcome to the Cultural Flip Side. How are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Wow.
This is amazing. Thank you for being with us today.
So,
So
you know, for the world out there, I would love for each one of you, and I'll start off with our beautiful Winter there and Faith Satterfield. If you can introduce yourself to the world, and then I'll go to Shakira Perez, and then Dr. Michael Connor. If you can introduce yourself, say a little bit about who you are before we begin this discussion, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay, who are you?
I'm Winter Satterfield.
How old are you?
I'm 5.
She's 5. I'm Faith Satterfield, Winter's mom. We live in Ledyard, Connecticut. I'm an artist, a mural artist and a teaching artist, wife and mom of 2 interracial children, and a blended family. We have four children altogether, with lots of different experiences. Thanks for having us.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Shakira Perez, high school,
Prom date? You know I had to say it, Shakira. Come on.
It's okay. I don't know if Kevin is ready for that, but that's okay. So I am Shakira Perez. I am an 8th and 12th grade teacher at Classical Magnet School. I teach English. I am a mother to 2 beautiful children, a junior at Classical and a 5th grader at Museum Academy, who will be a classical student next year. So we're going to keep it all in the family.
Nice.
And
That's awesome.
yeah, that's it.
Wonderful.
Thank you
you.
for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here as well. And Dr. Michael Connor, Superintendent of Middletown Public Schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Michael Connor, Superintendent of Middletown Public Schools. I am also an adjunct professor at the University of Connecticut. I have a kindergartner who is in my school system, attends Lawrence Elementary School, and my wife who's an educator as well. So glad to be on. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start off with you, Dr. Michael Connor. Dr. Michael Connor, how are you reimagining education? And what are some of the challenges you are facing as a superintendent?
No, that's a great question. If you think about reimagination, right, this is the perfect opportunity for transformation. I contextualized, right, education in 3 stages. Before COVID, obviously this was pre-pandemic, March 13th, during COVID, and we're starting to move into this stage of AD, after AC, after COVID or after disease. And when we think about reimagination, we have to keep equity in mind, specifically some of the, what I like to call standardizations. I know that this is education jargon, but grade levels, as an example, the Carnegie unit. These are things that are meant to be disrupted because they have created disparities in inequity, specifically around racial segments. Also looking at integrating artificial intelligence and digital platforms. We know that during COVID, we had this great transition from traditional brick and mortar education to remote learning. But there are some critical underpinnings of new learnings that we've created in education that we can be able to continue to augment as we move into the after disease stage. And then also in an intentionality around social emotional learning, as well as moving away from proficiency levels, but into growth models. These are things that before COVID, we would always have great conversation and discussion about, the cadre or coalition of innovators who wanted to disrupt education for equity, for equity, and for this now next level that we're moving into, anti-marginalization. This is the step forward, being able to metabolize cultural competence within a system or culturally relevant pedagogy, representation of students in the curriculum, as well as with teachers and leaders. These are the things that we always talked about. Now COVID has gave us permission and the opportunity to do so. So when I think about transformation or reimagining the education model, these are some of the elements that we need to continuously to disrupt as we move into the after disease stage. The challenge, mindset, right? And when we talk about mindset, is the context of having teachers and leaders be open to talk about race in schools, to be able to be comfortably uncomfortable to talk about equity and how the system systemically has not been well for Black and Brown students. We can't hide behind these conversations, right? And they're still kind of taboo. But what's going on in our country, our kindergartners, our first graders, they know exactly what's going on. And this is a new generation, Generation Alpha and Generation Z. So we have to be able to change the mindset systemically around how to redesign or reimagine the system, but also have these courageous conversations about equity and how we create equitable learning environments for students.
Thank you, Dr. Connor.
Thank you
for
so
your
much.
response.
I really appreciated that. I'm really interested also in hearing from a teacher's perspective, Shakira, some of the challenges you had while you were teaching during the pandemic.
So for me, there was a combination of things. So one is just having to learn how to teach in this virtual environment. It was also, and there were stages of like, oh, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like there were times when I felt ineffective, and mostly because I would see like what other teachers around the country were doing. Some of them were turning their kitchens into chemistry labs and, making their shower wall a dry erase board. And I'm like, well, what in the Pinterest is going on? Like, I can't do that. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. But just the challenge was learning to teach differently. While I was starting to get into, the digital platform with Google Classroom and, using all of these other applications that they have now, I was already starting to get into that, but having to do it right then and there without, it's like, oh, okay, it was a sink or swim moment. And that was very challenging. Another thing was student engagement. Often it was very discouraging when no one showed up to your Google Meet or no one turned their work in, and just really trying to get them to buy into what we're doing. Like, there's still school going on. I still need you here. I still need you present. I want you here. Then, I want to see you, because I also need to see my students that I've connected with since September. Some of them I've known since middle school. I want to see them there as well. And, and being a teacher and a parent during the pandemic was difficult. It's like I'm in my office trying to do my thing while trying to monitor my sophomore and trying to monitor my fourth grader and making sure that they're all logged in, and then our internet is like going down, and just it was a lot. But we got through it.
Absolutely.
We stepped up to the challenge.
So Shakira, just a quick follow-up. Did you have to teach concurrently, in which you're teaching both in person and students remotely? And I wondered if you wanted to speak about that, because many people, not necessarily understand how difficult that was. And so I just would love to hear your perspective.
Oh my goodness. It was so much work. I'm like walking around with my laptop, talking into the laptop, talking to the live person that's right next to me, and just coordinating everything. And just when the technology wasn't my friend, trying to make it my friend. It was a constant show. Just me constantly either fixing something, talking to someone. But I think the most important thing for me was the students that were at home, was just letting them know each and every time that they logged in that I am so glad you are here.
Right.
Like you didn't have to log in. You could have slept through it. You could have done your assignment another time, but you showing up and saying hello to me is making my day and making me feel like I'm still teaching you, that learning isn't being lost there. And if maybe the learning isn't getting in there, at least the connection, right? The social connection is there.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Shakira. I want to transition over to Faith for a moment as a parent's perspective. And I know that, the pandemic has forced parents to sort of become teachers at home, right? And so from that lens, can you tell us, especially that you have a kindergartner, and I know, having observed in some classrooms with kindergartners, just how challenging it was, for the students and for the teachers. So I'd love to hear how that experience was for you as a parent.
Well, my husband works for the New London Public School System, which isn't too far from us. He's a wellness interventionist, and he was seeing this rapid growth of COVID in the school system, in the community, and he was pretty scared to let our 5-year-old start school. So he talked me into homeschooling. Okay. I have to really love my family to say I'm going to do homeschooling. So we bought a curriculum. We started doing this really out of fear because we're thinking, like you, Shakira, like, are we doing enough? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? Are we protecting our children by sending them into, you know, the big wide world of this disease? And so we started homeschooling. We did that for probably 6 to 8 months. And I'm telling you, it was like running out of gas. It was like, you know, I'm not a qualified teacher. I'm a teaching artist, but being responsible for her education every day for 6 to 8 months, we finally, I think what you both were talking about is this learning gap with getting things going in the schools and virtually. It was almost like we did homeschooling while that kind of got into a rhythm. So we were excited and thinking, okay, well, mom's not doing, you know, a real teacher's job here. So we're going to enroll her back in school. And my daughter actually ended up getting COVID from my father.
Oh my gosh.
So she didn't get it in the school system. She got it at home, and we actually lost my dad.
Wow. I'm sorry to hear that, Faith.
So my father died of COVID 6 weeks ago.
Very sorry to hear that.
We had done all that. Thank you. We'd done all this work to protect her, and it got to her anyways.
Wow.
So we decided that, you know, things looked like they were going well. We're going to enroll her in school. And honestly, it's been the best decision because of what you were saying, Dr. Connor, about the socialization. And really, that's a huge part of my daughter's emotional needs. Like, she needed that feeling of being included.
Absolutely.
And we were really proud of the schools for coming up with a plan that was working. And so we made that huge shift from the freedom of home learning to putting her into a schedule, and it was the best decision we could have made.
It's amazing.
Wow.
That's really, wow. That is, I'm so
Parents
sorry to
are
hear
dealing
that,
with so much.
Yes, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah,
It is a lot.
Faith, thank you so much for sharing that
no problem.
with all of us. And I'm really sorry to hear about your father.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Dr. Connor, there are 169 municipalities, school districts within the state of Connecticut. And as you already know, there are 2 Latino superintendents and 6 Black superintendents in the state of Connecticut. Dr. Connor, what are some of the challenges you face navigating our educational system, being the only person of color in the room? And how do you recruit and retain people of color in cabinet positions?
Wow, that's a loaded question. So,
deep.
Well, you know I have to go a little deep here, Dr. Connor.
You got to bring it, Mr. Booker. But if you think about it, right, just hearing that, right, and just looking at this just from a rudimentary statistical mind frame, that you have 8 Black and brown executive leaders in education with the variety of different municipalities in the state of Connecticut. That's egregious, borderline malfeasance, right? And what I mean by that is that I know that there is a cadre of Black and brown leaders in this state that have their 092 administrative certificates and 093 superintendent certificates that can lead effectively. And I think that, you know, Connecticut, we're still need to have the opportunity where cities and Board of Educations trust Black and brown leaders to be able to lead the education systems in Connecticut. Obviously, just, speaking specifically from the University of Connecticut Executive Leadership Program, they have created, Dr. Bob Villanova has created a good pipeline of Black and brown leaders with intentionality to be able to recruit these leaders into the executive leadership roles. It's up to the Board of Education's outside of what I like to say the urban districts, the 33 Alliance districts, and the big three, Hartford, New Haven, and Bridgeport, where it seems like we just tend to only lean towards those districts to get hired. We have to look at it in a much broader context. So first, it has to be the hiring, right? And we're out there. I know that for sure. And, retaining, I always look at it as an example. My chief academic officer became the superintendent of Andover, Mass. She's leaving July 1st. My mentee at the University of Connecticut will become the 7th Black superintendent as he matriculates into the superintendent role in Stratford. The goal is to prepare these individuals to be able to lead districts outside of the traditional urban districts in Connecticut. So my goal is to be able to hire Black and brown individuals, right? To be able to hire Black and brown, prepare them in Middletown Public Schools, and then have them matriculate on the executive roles. That's my goal. So yes, I want to be able to retain them, but I want to be able to retain them and provide them with high-level professional learning and couple it with the actual work, application and practice, working in this synonymous context. But I think it has to be a better job of districts being intentional and not being afraid of hiring Black and brown leaders in the state of Connecticut, nationwide as well. And then also we have to create a pipeline that has a level of incentives, right? Black and brown families, we're, naturally growing up, we don't have good experiences in that education. That's why we normally tend not to go into the education field because of that, specifically the microaggressions that we experience in schools, right?
Absolutely.
And then I speak specifically for me, where my SAT scores got questioned. Am I in the AP courses and all that, right? I went through that, but I was able to defy through that. Some of us, we get turned off of that. So we have to be able to make education enticing for Black and brown leaders as well, specifically around Black and brown women. We need more women leaders out there in executive roles. That's why I'm glad Dr. Parvey, my chief academic officer, became superintendent. And I'm going to continue to try to advocate and grow Black and brown leaders, specifically women, because we need more. It's not just Black and brown males, of course, but we need Black and brown females in the equation as well. So that's a challenge I think we have to continue to push, right? When we talk about anti-marginalization, not just in the classrooms, but in the hiring practices as well.
Now, Dr. Connor, don't get any ideas. We're trying to get Shakira to come over to Middletown and become some kind of leader.
I don't know. I know. It might be a little enticing right now. I see her head nodding a little bit.
Don't even. I got Shakira.
I don't know. I think Dr. Connor was winging her in there.
Dr. Torres is very upset at me, so I don't think I'm going to do that.
Shakira,
I'm putting that on record right now.
That's good to know. So Shakira, speaking of you, congratulations again on being Harvard's 2020 Teacher of the Year, right? Amazing. I can't tell you how proud I am of you. And we are just thrilled, right, in Hartford in supporting you. So, I had the privilege of hearing your Teacher of the Year speech, right? But I want the viewers to hear a little bit about your journey as a student and how those experiences inspired you to become a teacher.
Yeah, I must say, I worked really hard on that speech, and it came from every fiber of my being because, when I think about winning Hartford Teacher of the Year, and I've been interviewed several times, I always say that it's a win for Hartford because I'm a product of Hartford schools.
That's right.
From kindergarten through high school, I went through all of the schools. I've lived in Hartford neighborhoods. Like I don't know anything else. And so, the teachers that I had, the classes that I took, the connections that I made, I'm still in contact with my high school English teacher, and actually several English teachers, and maybe and a history teacher. So still having those connections and, I can say I wasn't the smartest student there. I know that, but I worked really hard. And I worked hard because I wanted to, at first I wanted to please my teachers, but then it became more about me. It became more about me and my story, right? I grew up in the projects, and I knew that there was a bigger, better world outside of the projects. So I knew that in order to get out, I had to work hard. And from that point, and just being who I was as a student, and I tell my students this story all the time as well. When I was in high school, I don't know what happened my senior year. Well, actually, I do know. I got scared. I said, oh my God, this is ending. The security of this school, the security of my teachers, all of this is ending, and I don't want it to end just yet. And I self-sabotaged. I didn't graduate on stage with my peers. And in doing that, that was the hardest lesson of my life. Like, I still think about it, and I still get chills now, because I know how difficult that was. Kevin, I don't know if you remember, but our graduation used to be at the Bushnell Theater.
Yes, I remember. I graduated there.
All three Hartford high schools used to be
That's
at
right.
the Bushnell, and I missed that.
Yes.
And that experience, I watched it on public access TV. Like, that's how I saw my graduation. But again, I talked about the fire being ignited in me, and that was just another fire that ignited. And I said, okay, I am better than this. I know that I can do better. So I carry that experience with me into the classroom. I work with seniors now, and I tell them that story, and they know all about me. I went to classical, I did this, I did that. I'm just like you. So that means you can be just like me. You also can be a teacher, or you can be a doctor or a lawyer, whatever you want to be. Don't let your circumstances, or don't let your environment dictate anything other than you can be whatever you want to be.
Oh my gosh, Shakira. Wow. And Shakira, were you speaking about Mrs. Russell, Mr. Buckley, Mr. Taylor?
I was. So actually, when I was doing my pre-teaching service, I was in Miss Russell's class. And at the time, she was teaching the novel Native Son, or Black Boy, one of them. It was one of the Richard Wright books. And she gave me a book to just kind of follow along. And, as chance would have it, it just so happened to be the book that I had in high school. Like, it had my name written in it.
Oh my gosh.
And remember Miss Russell was like all about vibes and energy and super hippie. She's like, oh my God, it's Kismet. And I was like, okay.
That's how she was.
Sure. But I back in high school, of course, we didn't appreciate our teachers. But at that moment, when I was learning from her to become a teacher, I saw her in a completely different light.
Yeah.
I've worked with Mr. Latrack side by side. He was my instructional coach. He was my colleague. I could never call him by his first name. He was still Mr. Latrack.
Mr. Latrack. The Odyssey.
The Odyssey.
Remember that?
Journey, all of that.
All of that.
All of that. I bring it to my classroom because
awesome.
I learned from what I think are the greats. So I'm trying to be one of the greats.
That's great.
Well, you got me reminiscing right now.
Good times.
That's wonderful. That is amazing. Thank you again, Shakira, for that. I appreciate it. So let's talk to Faith.
Yeah, when we think about, I just think about earlier, Faith, you touched on a lot of, circumstances that many parents are dealing with at this moment. And I just want to say thank you so much for your vulnerability and the courage to be able to address some of these issues. What is something your daughter's teacher has done that has made a huge impact on her and her learning?
Is there anything that you want to say thank you to your teacher for?
Yes.
What?
By helping me do things when I don't know the question.
Right. So she's been helping Winter learn. She's been helping Winter learn social, situational,
And math.
lessons. Yep, math. She's really highlighting what Winter's good at. She's being very gracious about the fact that
That's cool.
Winter
That's
wasn't
awesome.
at the same level as some of the other students when she came in. So she came in February, whereas the other kids had started in the fall. And she's been very gracious in just letting Winter adjust. So she hasn't been sending home letters and emails and marking things wrong. And I just get this real sense that she understands that each child has a different level in different areas. So Winter has a huge knowledge in travel, in adventure, in observing what's going on, in talking about social situations. But she she's needing more help with reading and different things like that. That yes, we gave her an education at home the best way we could, but she responds differently to her teacher. And I feel this great appreciation for people whose careers are teaching, because as a parent trying to balance teaching with working and being an artist, taking care of a home, other children, it's like this sense of, it seems very elementary, don't mind the pun, but like this woman, her career is to teach my child. But because she's doing that, because that's in place, this educational system, I'm allowed to let my child go there, and I'm allowed to get on with the rest of my life and balance it better.
Wow.
You know, me trying to do
well
someone
said.
else's job, it really showed me that it's not going to be done to the standard of excellence that my child is so privileged to have. Like, yes, we can make it work. We could keep going like this, but I definitely, going to public school, believe that my child would get the best, well-rounded education going to a public school, not learning at home for me.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we appreciate the team. So I was talking with Winter before we went live, and she was saying it's all the teachers together that are helping her learn. So it's the team.
Very wise.
It's all of them teach her. She's learning things from all the different teachers in the classroom, which I think it's 4. And that was pretty special, because she's not just attributing what she's learning to one person. It's the network of people that make the schools
That's right.
run, from the people that take her out of the car to the people that help with signing her out at the end of the day. It's the team. Yep, 5 teachers in the classroom. So we're grateful for the team.
That's amazing.
Winter, thank you so much for that.
Yes.
It's the team.
Yes.
Yep.
Everyone working together.
Takes a village, right?
That's right.
Takes
Yep.
a village. She's beautiful, by the way. She
Thank
is
you.
just
Thank you.
beautiful. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate your input. I always very much value the input of parents' perspective, because
important.
parents are a key partner, right, in our education.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes. I want to bring it back to Dr. Connor for a moment, if I will. Dr. Connor, what is something you learned as a result of the pandemic that you will take with you as we return now in the fall? And we're going to put this in quotation marks.
Yeah.
New normal,
Normal.
right? That's we know is never going to be normal, right?
Yeah.
But this new way of learning and education, what is something that you learned as a result?
Exactly what you said. Is to continuously to challenge the legacy model, so the de facto won't become the primary model in education. What we all have learned is that experimentation in education is okay. We need to have our teachers, our leaders, to have the permission to innovate, to continue to integrate technology, continue to lament and concretize equity discussions, and being able to look at instruction in a different way, looking at how we execute or exploit time in different ways, and also to be able to ensure that there's a level of flexibility to ensure that all of our learners are a part of the learning process. Exactly what you stated is we created a new value creation, value capture for all of our students and our families. And it's not just whole child. I look at it as whole child, whole family, whole community. The community needs to be directly involved in this, extending partnerships, creating new partnerships, and continuous learning, right? This continuous improvement process of we're all learners, we're great learners, and to work together in this collaborative context. So obviously, you know, disruptive innovation for equity and creativity is something that we're going to continue, but to seek out partnerships like a Ms. Satterfield, and ensuring that students are at the center and student voice is included in this process as well.
Absolutely.
And I've heard so much from our students. I mean, we just moved a policy in place where my Superintendent Youth Council is leveraged in policy, where they're going to be a part of making policy, because it can't be a bureaucratic top-down approach. It has to be a bottom-up, where our teachers have a voice and our students have a voice within this design of this new model. So I think, you know, that's one of the underpinnings of how we have to broaden this ecosystem and tighten the partnerships within the ecosystem.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Dr. Connor. And same question for you, Ms. Perez. What is something you have learned as a result of the pandemic that you will take when we return to our new normal?
Well, the one thing that I have definitely learned is that I am, and not learned, it reinforces, I am always a student. I always have to learn. I always have to adapt, if not for myself, but for my students as well. You know, I have to keep up with them. And the one thing that this pandemic did do is it forced teachers to do just that. We had to learn a different way of teaching. You know, I know that it was definitely a struggle for my older colleagues that are, you know, the most they can do sometimes is just email. So for them to do Google Meets and you know, navigate through Google Classroom, that was a challenge for them. But I know that the slogan for the pandemic was, we're all in this together. And that's exactly what happened. You know, we would email, we would call, we had group texts, whatever we could do to support each other through this process is, that was really important. And I know that, you know, I feel that I've become a better teacher as a result of the pandemic. You know, do I wish the pandemic never happened? Of course. But I'm kind of glad it did, because it made me step outside the box. It made me challenge myself to do better, to be better, to find a better way. So definitely lots of things that I learned that I will continue to implement, and just always remember that I'm always a student and I should never stop learning.
That's right.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Thank you so much for sharing that message. Very, very true, right? You know, it's not that we necessarily wanted the pandemic to happen, but boy, did it help us to reimagine education in ways that we never thought were possible, right? And so thank you for lifting that. Faith, I would ask you from a parent's perspective, what does, quote, new normal mean for you as a parent?
Well, I feel like change is inevitable. So you have to, even with your children, they're growing, they're changing. I have been at this stage before, you know, with a 5-year-old in school. This is the first time. I also haven't run a business having to be at home with 2 children, but yet the advancements with virtual learning and Zoom meetings and everybody getting versed with, you know, technology in a way that they didn't before, that everyone will adapt. You know, my kids will adapt, I'll adapt, you know, so just not to be scared of challenges that come, because we're all learning. As long as you stay connected to the world around you in some way, you're going to be fine. Your kids are going to be fine. You know, everybody's going to be taken care of, you know, and it's just been, like Shakira said, like, there's a lot of gratitude for what we've learned. It completely gave me a way to run my business from home, where I don't have to entrust my kids into other people's care. I can do it at night. I can do it from my computer. I don't have to go out and teach people paint classes and things. I can do them from home. And so I'm able to parent better because I'm not having to constantly have the stress of, are my kids safe? Are they getting sick where they're going? You know, it really gave me a lot of ability to parent better, you know.
Wow.
And I did get that time with my daughter before I enrolled her in school. As much as I didn't want to homeschool, it gave me that time with her, and maybe developed a relationship that I wouldn't have gotten as much of had she started school in the fall. And so, you know, I feel like as long as you can focus on the positive in whatever the situation is, you can learn from it.
That's a strong message. Thank you, Faith, for lifting that.
You're welcome.
That's
I love the fact that, you know, Faith said, you know, stay connected to the world around you.
Yeah.
And as long as you stay connected.
Right.
Yep.
When I think about staying connected, you know, a lot of people right now are dealing with depression,
Yes.
mental health, anxiety.
Absolutely.
There are so many people hurting, so many parents, so many teachers who are dealing with a lot as well, you know, not accustomed to being away from their students.
Yes.
Administrators, educators overall, right?
Absolutely.
So our community overall is hurting. And for you extraordinary individuals who have taken time out to be here on the cultural flip side today, can you leave some of the viewers a statement, a quote, something that you live by that helps you to continue moving forward throughout your day when you're dealing with those situations of anxiety, depression, mental health, because that's something that we all have dealt with during this pandemic, just to help people to stay encouraged. I'll start off with Ms. Perez.
So, there is a educator. I believe she has passed on, but I remember watching a number of years ago a TED Talk that she did, and her name was Rita Pearson, and she's an older Black woman, and one of the things that she said that has always just remained with me is that the students may not remember what you taught them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So, and you know, and I think about that, and you know, I teach British literature. My kids aren't going to remember Beowulf. They don't care.
True.
But yes, but they will remember that I stand at the door every morning and I say hello and I say good morning and I smile at them and I ask for permission to give them pre-COVID, to give them a hug. You know, they're going to know that Miss Perez loves them. And I think like even now, even behind the mask, I smile extra hard with my eyes so that they know that I am happy to see them. And so they may not remember any of this virtual stuff. They may not think it doesn't matter, but they're going to know. And I think that's just with anyone, right? They may not even remember what you said 5 minutes ago, but they'll know how they felt when they were around you.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important, especially now in education. You know, we want to focus on social emotional health and learning and things like that. And I think that's the first step.
Thank you, Ms. Perez.
You.
You're welcome.
And Dr. Michael Connor.
Yes, when I think about this, and you're very familiar with this, Mr. Booker, obviously Invictus, right?
Oh.
That is a very, very powerful poem. Also, If by Rudyard Kipling, right? So those are the two that we're very familiar with. But one quote by Charles H. Wesley. He wrote the book, The History of Alpha Phi Alpha, the Development in College Life. I am a part of the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. But there's one sentence within the dedication that I always look towards, onward and upward towards the light, right? And when you think about that, the vision of what you want to be able to accomplish, despite any barriers or pitfalls that you might encounter, keep your eyes on the vision and continuously to move through that, because hard times don't last forever. And
Absolutely.
when I think about, you know, moving upward, right? And that light, seeking that light in this division. So yes, it's been a very trying and emotional and arduous time for everyone, but this is not going to last forever. And our continuous progress to the light, we'll be able to achieve our vision together.
Beautiful.
Wow. Thank you, Dr.
you.
Connor.
Thank you very
Upward
much.
and onward. 06, Dr. Connor. Thank you very much. And Mrs. Faith Satterfield.
So, as an artist and a mom and a teaching artist, I would say to people, it's not so much what you learn, it's how you learn to learn. So I tell a lot of the teens that we work with who are, middle school, high school, what they want you to do is know how to learn. Like Shakira said, it's not so much about Beowulf. It's not so much about the poem or the speech that you give. It's about how you ingest information and how you're able to give it out through the filter of you. I just feel like in creativity, when you sketch, each sketch you do is a step towards your finished project. Okay? You could sketch something, hate it, throw it in the garbage, but without that mistake or that stage of not liking what you did, you can't adjust to the next step. So every single sketch you make is part of your final piece. Okay? So it's about how you learn. It's not about getting discouraged about the fact that you crumpled it up and threw it away. It's the fact that you did it and crumpled it up and threw it away. It's about each step building till you've got what you see in your mind. So same thing with a successful career or finishing high school and becoming, a dream teacher. These things that we want, it's about learning creatively how to learn. So your way of learning doesn't have to look like everyone else's. Your way of coping doesn't have to look like everyone else's. Right. And I think it's really key to understand that you are one, and your picture isn't going to look like everyone else. Your interpretation isn't like everyone else. So your creativity is important in your learning process.
Wow. I just want to say thank you to Dr. Michael Connor. Thank you for being on the Cultural Flip Side today. Thank you, Ms. Shakira Perez, high school, Hartford High, classical magnet. Thank you, Mrs. Satterfield.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the three of you for just your dedication, your passion to education. You are extraordinary individuals.
Absolutely.
We love you and we appreciate all the work you are doing.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. We are very appreciative that you took time out of your busy schedules to really just be on a very important topic on this show, right? In addition to just teacher appreciation, and we are so very grateful because when we talk about teacher appreciation, it isn't just the teachers, right? It's all educators. Anybody's touching the lives of children, so each and every one of you play an integral part of that. So we just want to thank you again for being here. We're very blessed to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And have a wonderful day.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing. I tell you, that inspired me and rejuvenated me even more. So when I get in the classroom tomorrow, and practicing social distancing with my students, but it motivates me. Sometimes I just love connecting with other educators and parents because it also allows me to rethink. Even when I'm going through those moments,
Absolutely.
We're talking about depression, anxiety, just sometimes you just even frustrated at times, right? Because of everything that's going on.
Right.
And we just have to connect with one another.
That is so powerful.
Yeah.
I mean, their messages just really, resonated with me. You can tell that they're very, very dedicated to their profession and as a parent. Right? Just education in general. And, I love how Dr. Connor, sort of framed it in that it's almost like we need the whole community.
The whole community.
Right? It's not just this one person, this person here, right? Everybody is a part of that puzzle.
Absolutely.
Right? To making sure that each and every one of our students is successful in the real world. And it actually brought me to a poem that I had.
Which one?
In my classroom when I was I taught elementary, but I also taught high school. But I always had it on my bulletin board, and I'll always remember it. I have it, pretty much memorized.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've heard it. It's called 100 Years From Now.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Yes.
And for those of you who are not sure, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but I think I have most of it. But it's 100 years from now, right? It's not going to matter what's in my bank account, the car I drive, or the house that I live in. What's going to matter is that I mattered in the life of a child, right? That I'm important in the life of a child, right? And that to me is always like sort of my center. When it's hard and it's rough, it's like I'm making a difference. And you teachers out there, you educators, you are making a difference each and every day.
Absolutely.
Even through the hard days, just know that you matter, right? And you are helping to cultivate the next generation, right? And always remember that. Stay true to that, always.
Very much so. And a quote that resonates with me is by the former president of South Africa, Nelson Mandela.
Oh, yes.
Education is the most powerful tool you can use to change the world.
Yeah, it's a great
So
quote.
when I think about when Nelson Mandela, you know, that quote by him, I just think about what it means every day. And I always share that with my students because even when they're going through their moments, when they feel that, I don't know, Mr. Booker, if I can do this,
Right.
I go, yes, you can do this. And I know that the other day, one of my students called me that I taught in 2005.
Oh, wow.
16 years ago,
Yeah, that's
right?
a long
He
time.
called me up and he said to me, he said, Mr. Booker, you know what? I remember when you shared with us, with all of us in the class, that you were labeled special ed. And you overcame that obstacle and you were our teacher in 05. And he said, that actually impacted me because of the fact that you were able to overcome your obstacles. And now in my life, in my 30s, because he's in his early 30s now, so that tells you how old I am.
I know.
So he said to me, he said, you know what? Sometimes I deal with my own personal issues, but I think back on those stories. I think back on the times that we were in class, going over those quotes, going over those poems and sharing things in class.
Right.
He said, that encourages me to continue moving forward now. So many of you right now, even if you have that, you know, those doubts, and you have those moments, remember we are a community and we have to continue encouraging and helping one another because that's what it takes.
Absolutely.
You know, even like just us as educators alone, we always touch base with each other
Absolutely.
because we have to continue doing it.
We do.
We do.
This is a very, you know, connections-oriented type profession, right? Check in with each other. You know, practice grace, right? Say that prayer for that colleague, right?
You
For
know,
that student. As a matter of fact,
fact,
let's do a prayer.
That's right.
You're so good at it.
Oh my gosh. God, thank you so much for this show today. Thank you so much for Dr. Miguel Cardona.
Absolutely.
Please protect his family. Please protect all his loved ones and also the cabinet, Lord.
Absolutely.
The Biden cabinet. And God, thank you so much for Dr. Michael Connor for being on the show. Thank you so much for Shakira Perez. Thank you so much for Miss Faith Satterfield and their families, Lord. All their families, please protect them. And thank you so much for the cultural flip side, giving us the platform to be able to connect with so many people and help us to stay positive through these tumultuous times that we are living in and help us to stay just committed and dedicated as educators and connect with one another, even when we're dealing with our own self-doubt and we're dealing with our own issues. And thank you so much for this time to be able to come together so we can continue to build our communities, build our schools, and continue to build the nation. We love you and we appreciate you, Lord. Amen.
Amen.
So remember, even if you prefer something else, you can always pray anywhere. But if you prefer to do something else, you can meditate, you can take a walk, whatever it is. But let's continue helping one another. Let's continue empowering each other so we can be our best self. I love you all. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining the Cultural Flip Side today. And remember, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. We are here.
Yes.
We look forward to you joining next week. I love you all.
Adios.